Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 27 February 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first article. Title says India, China agree to establish new hotline. So this article mainly talking about India-China relations, which comes under international relations, okay, under GS paper 2. So this topic is important regarding mains point of view. Now let us try to understand context of this article and also some important details which are highlighted in this article. So context mainly says that foreign ministers of India and China, they agreed to establish a new hotline to ensure timely communication in wake of last year's border crisis. So as we know from April-May 2020 onwards, so there is a military standoff that is seen across LAC, line of actual control. So in this context, what happened? Relationship between India and China that are deteriorated. So because of this now, foreign ministers of India and China, they agreed to establish a new hotline to ensure timely communication between India and China. So some details which are highlighted in this article, they include External Affairs Minister, he mainly said that bilateral relations, they have been impacted severely over last 1 year because of military standoff at line of actual control, and also that led to Galvan Valley incident, right? So if you're talking about this boundary question, so it may take some time to resolve, but because of disturbance of peace and tranquility, including violence in this area, that led to impact on relationship between India and China. So in these talks, they mainly stress that restoring normality to border relationship, that is very important, and when we want to bring or restore this peace and tranquility in this area, we require complete disengagement and as well as de-escalation along the border. And also there is a need of restoration of peace and tranquility. So that will helpful for further progress of bilateral relationship between India and China. So in this context, our External Affairs Minister also said that handling of this boundary question, which is very important to prevent bilateral relationship from sinking into negative cycle here. So mainly to come towards positive thing, we need to handle this boundary question in a proper manner. So whenever we are dealing with this boundary question, then only we can have some bilateral relationship between India and China that will not go into negative phase. And in this context, on both sides, they also stressed about need to advance the boundary talks and to build up mutual trust and realize peace and tranquility in these border areas. So these are some important details which are discussed in this article. And now let us see next article. Title says Assembly polls to kick off on March 27. So this article mainly focusing on Assembly polls. So this is important regarding polity, which comes under GS paper 2. So in this context, we need to understand about state legislature, and also we need to see some facts regarding this Election Commission of India also. So now let us see first context. Here context says that the assembly elections in states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal, Assam and Union Territory Puducherry, that will be held from March 27 onwards till April 29th. So this is mainly announced by Election Commission of India. So if you see some facts regarding this article, so we need to focus on State Legislative Assembly. So this State Legislative Assembly, popularly called as elected chamber and the real center of power in state. So if you are talking about bicameral legislature, in center it is mandatory, but in states have choice regarding this bicameral legislature. So what is this bicameral legislature? That means having two houses, upper house and lower house. If you are talking about central level, we have upper house and lower house, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha at central level. But if you're talking about state level, some states have bicameral legislature and some states they have unicameral legislature. That means having this bicameral legislature at state level, it is not compulsorily. So state have some choice. If they want to have legislative council, they may have. So if they don't want this legislative council, they cannot have. So in this way, state have option to whether to have the legislative council or not. So some states they have bicameral legislature and some states they have unicameral legislature. State with bicameral legislature, they have state legislative assembly and legislative council. Okay. States with unicameral legislature, they have only assembly here. So if you are talking about maximum and minimum strength that should not exceed 500 and minimum strength is 60. But some states with smaller legislative assemblies like Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh and Goa, they have less than 60. Okay. And now let us see some facts regarding Election Commission of India. So this Election Commission of India, it is an autonomous constitutional authority which is mainly responsible for administering union and state election process in India. So Election Commission of India mainly administers elections for Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and also state legislative assembly and also for offices of president and as well as vice president in India. So it comes under mainly part 15 of our Indian Constitution, and this Election Commission of India mainly deals with elections here. Okay. And this Election Commission of India mainly established in accordance with Constitution on 25th January 1950. And if you see constitutional provisions, that is from Article 324 to Article 329 mainly deals with this Election Commission of India. For example, powers, functions, tenure, eligibility, etc. So all these discussed under this Article 324 to Article 329 of Indian Constitution. So if you see structure of Election Commission of India, so it mainly contains one Chief Election Commissioner and other 2 election commissioners are present. So they are mainly elected by President of India. So tenure here is 6 years or up to age of 65 years. So Chief Election Commissioner, he can be removed from office by only through a process of removal which is similar to that of removal of Supreme Court judge by Parliament. So these are some important things that you should remember regarding this article, and I want to give you a homework. So you have to refer functions of this Election Commission of India and as well as importance or relevance of this Election Commission of India. Okay, and now let us see next article. So before seeing this article, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. We came up with this current affairs package course. In this course, we are mainly focusing on current affairs and also mains answer writing practice. So if you ask me importance of current affairs, about 50 to 60% of questions, okay, so either it may be prelims or mains or even interview, you can expect questions from current affairs. So some static based questions, they will also appear in your paper. They are related to this current affairs. So mastering of current affairs is very important to clear UPSC. And if you are talking about this mains answer writing practice, without proper answer writing skills, you cannot clear UPSC for sure. So on day 1 of your preparation, you need to focus on your answer writing practice, how to improve your answer writing skills. And if you are joining this course, we also provide you prelims practice questions along with video solutions. So in this way, this course is exactly focusing on demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing. Please don't take this course as a choice. Please try to join this course as soon as possible and achieve your dream of clearing UPSC. For further details, please contact us. Details are given in description box. And don't forget about this course. And now let us see next article. Title says India out of recession, GDP grows 0.4%. So this article mainly focusing on technical recession. So what is meaning of this word technical recession? That means whenever we are seeing negative growth, for example in quarter 1 and quarter 2 we experience negative growth, right? So in quarter 1 there is negative growth or contraction of 23.5%, and in quarter 2 we experienced about 7.5% of contraction. So whenever we see contraction that is seen in successively quarter 1 and quarter 2 here, so this type of recession is called as technical recession. Whenever there is contraction of economy that is seen for 2 quarters, that is called as technical recession. Okay, and this article is important regarding GS paper 3 under economy. So now let us see context and as well as some important details of this article, and also we are going to see some facts which are important regarding prelims point of view. If you see here, this article mainly focusing on this gross domestic product. So what is this gross domestic product first? So total value of final goods and services that are produced within a country within a certain period of time. So here normally it is 1 year. So this value of total final goods and services of, we can say that total value of goods and services that are produced within a country within 1 year period of time. So that is called as gross domestic product. So if you see context, it mainly says that India's economy resurfaced to growth territory in third quarter of fiscal year 2020-21 as per National Statistical Office. Okay, so in quarter 1 we saw there is contraction of our economy, and quarter 2 we saw there is also contraction. So in quarter 3 we are seeing some positive growth of 0.4% of our GDP. So it is according to data which is given by National Statistical Office. So now let us see some details regarding this article. So GDP has struck in first 2 quarters by contraction of 24.4% and as well as 7.3% in our first and second quarter. So this type of contraction is called as technical recession. So this is according to data which is given by National Statistical Office. So this National Statistical Office has also revised about its advanced national income estimates of financial year 2021. Okay, and in this context our finance minister also said that there is 0.4% of real GDP growth in quarter 3. So this data mainly shows that there is return to pre-pandemic times of positive growth rates, and also this is one of reflection of a further strengthening of our V-shaped recovery that began in quarter 2. So whatever V-shaped recovery that began at quarter 2 here, so that is reflecting somewhat V-shaped recovery. So this V-shaped recovery which is strengthening because of this data which is given by National Statistical Office. So some more details which are given in this article based on sector wise. So if you are talking about agriculture, so during this quarter 1 and quarter 2, this is only sector that is showing some positive growth. So in this agriculture, that is remained resilient growth that is seen, and there is positive growth that recorded in quarter 1 and also quarter 2 regarding this agriculture. And as per this NSO expert, it mainly said that there is some positive growth of about 3% that is expected in this financial year 21. And if you are talking about other sectors like electricity, gas, water and utilities, they are another sector which is showing some positive growth of 1.8%. And even other sectors like manufacturing, construction, real estate, professional services, they also staggered and they are also showing some positive growth for first time here, okay, after this quarter 1 and quarter 2. And manufacturing, it is showing about 1.5% growth, and construction which is contributed to 6% here. And if you're talking about tertiary sector, that is services, for example trade, hotels, transport, communication, they all remain in trouble, and there is GVA, gross value added, declining about 7.7% in this service sector. And now let us see some facts regarding this National Statistical Office, that is NSO. So this NSO mainly formed or created by merging of CSO, that is Central Statistical Organization, and NSSO, that is National Sample Survey Office here. So this is mainly recommended by C. Rangarajan Committee. So if you're talking about this CSO, mainly provides some data regarding GDP and as well as Index of Industrial Production. And if you're talking about this NSSO, it will provide various sample surveys and as well as consumption, expenditure, employment and also unemployment data that will be provided by this NSSO. So if you're talking about this NSO, it also has some statistical wing So this statistical wing mainly comprising of constituent of this CSO and as well as NSSO. So this NSO mainly headed by Secretary Statistics and Program Implementation. So these are some important facts that may be important regarding prelims, okay? And now let us see next article. Title says current inflation target band apt for next 5 years, says RBI report. So this article mainly talking about inflation target. So in this regard, first you need to remember what is this inflation first. First you need to know what is this inflation, and you have to know what is range of this inflation target here. So this article is important again regarding economy, which comes under GS paper 3. And this inflation topic is important from both prelims and also mains. So now let us try to understand this article in great detail. So here this article mainly says that RBI came up with a report on currency and finance for financial year 21. So in this report it mainly highlighted that current inflation target, that is 4 plus or minus 2% tolerance band, it is appropriate for next 5 years. So till next 5 years also we can follow this target of inflation, that is 4 plus or minus 2. That means inflation should be maintained between 2 to 6%. And now let us try to understand what is this inflation. So first of all, what is this inflation? Inflation means there is a general rise of prices of goods and services in market. So this increased prices of goods and services in market, this condition is called as inflation. So if you are talking about types of inflation, there are mainly 3 types. First one is demand pull, second one is cost push, third one is built-in. So what is demand pull? So whenever demand is increasing market, price of goods and services is increasing in market. For example, there are only 10 breads are present in shop, okay? But demand for this 10 breads is increasing. Mainly 50 people, they are demanding for these 10 breads. So because of this, shopkeeper may sell these breads for higher price. So this type of inflation is called as demand pull inflation. And next one is cost push inflation. So for production of any goods, we need some raw materials, right? So whenever the cost of this raw materials is increasing, final cost of this product will be increased. So this type of inflation is called as cost push inflation. So this cost push inflation not only because of increase in raw material cost, but also some taxes etc. that also comes into this cost push inflation. And next one is built-in inflation. So what is this built-in inflation? So whenever there is increased wages, so for example, if one person who used to get about rupees 10,000 of his 10,000 as salary, and later on what happened, there is increase in salary to rupees 15,000. Earlier when he got this 10,000 rupees as salary, he used to have only dal and rice. But because of increase in 5,000 rupees, he is going to market and demanding for chicken, paneer, etc. So because of increased wages, so there is increased demand for goods, okay? So this type of inflation is called as built-in inflation. So if you are talking about measurement of this inflation, so we are going to have 2 indices. First one is wholesale price index, second one is consumer price index. So what is this wholesale price index? So it is mainly estimated by Ministry of Industries and Commerce. So it is mainly based on bulk products, and this is mainly based on monthly, okay? So this is mainly measured on monthly basis. And if you are talking about this consumer price index, so we are calculating inflation at consumer level. So there are about 4 types of this indices. First one is CPI industrial workers, CPI urban non-manual employees, next one is CPI agricultural laborers, and next one is CPI rural laborers. So these are 4 types of indices under this consumer price index. So these are some important facts that you should remember. And now let us see next article. Title says a colonial relic. So this article mainly focusing on sedition law. So this sedition is important regarding polity, which comes under GS paper 2. Okay, now let us try to understand this article in great detail. So this article mainly focused on environmentalist who was arrested. Name of that environmentalist here is Disha Ravi. So this Disha Ravi mainly released one video regarding farmer protest, etc. So because of this, that led to something. Okay, so this is allegation made on her and she was arrested and bail also granted here. So regarding this, we need not to focus on what is event, what Disha Ravi did, what happened. So everything which is not important regarding UPSC point of view. So regarding UPSC point of view, we need to understand historical background of this sedition law, and under this sedition law, who are important personalities they were prosecuted, and as well as we need to see some arguments in favor and as well as arguments against the sedition law. So this is important regarding mains point of view actually. So now let us try to understand this article from UPSC point of view. So this article mainly focusing on misuse of sedition law. First we need to know historical background of this sedition law. So this sedition law was enacted mainly in 17th century by England. So this sedition law mainly makes or empowers lawmakers. These lawmakers, they mainly believe that only good opinions of government should survive, and bad opinions, they were detrimental to government and monarchy. Mainly to suppress these bad opinions, here lawmakers, they came up with this sedition law in 17th century. And this law was originally drafted in year 1837 by Thomas Macaulay. So if you're talking about famous sedition trials under freedom movement include, first one is Jogendra Chandra Bose. He was under trial in 1991. He was editor of newspaper Bangobasi. So he wrote an article mainly criticizing age of consent bill. So because of this, he mainly arrested under this Sedition Act. And next personality here is Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and even Mahatma Gandhi also arrested under this Sedition Act. So if you're talking about sedition law today in India, sedition, it is a crime under section 124A of Indian Penal Code. So under this section 124A of IPC, it mainly defines sedition as an offence mainly committed when any person by words, either spoken or either written, or by any signs or by visual representation, or any attempts made to bring into hatred or contempt, or excites or attempts to excite disaffection mainly towards government which is established by law in India. So that comes under mainly sedition here. So here disaffection mainly includes disloyalty and also feelings of encounter. Okay, so these are some of important things that are included under this disaffection. So if you are talking about punishment of offense of sedition, so whenever any person who is punished under this offense, so it will comes under non-bailable, bail will not be given. And if you're talking about punishment, it mainly ranges from imprisonment to 3 years to lifetime, and it also includes fines sometimes. And a person who charged under this law is barred from government jobs also. So these are some punishments under this sedition offense. And if you're talking about major Supreme Court decisions, so first important case here after independence is Brij Bhushan versus State of Delhi and Ramesh Thapar versus State of Madras. So under these two important cases, Supreme Court mainly held that restricted speech on the grounds that it would disturb public order, it is unconstitutional. So it said that this is unconstitutional, and court also held that disturbing public order will mean nothing less than endangering the foundation of states or threatening its overthrow. So these are two important things mainly held by Supreme Court. So because of this, government came up with first Constitutional Amendment Act. Under this act, it changed some wordings in this Article 19 subclass 2. This Article 19 subclass 2 mainly talks about reasonable restrictions, right? So under this Article 19 subclass 2, mainly government rewritten to replace undermining security of states with interest of public order. And second case here is Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar 1962. So in this case, Supreme Court held constitutionality of this sedition. But Supreme Court said that it is limited. So there is a need of limited application here, mainly involving intervention and as well as tendency to create disorder, disturbance of law and order, and also incitement to violence. And next one is Balwant Singh versus State of Punjab 1995. So in this case, Supreme Court said that mere sloganeering which is invoked no public response, it does not amount to sedition here. So these are three important famous Supreme Court judgments regarding this sedition law. So now let us see some arguments in favor of this sedition. So this sedition mainly present in section 124A of Indian Penal Code. It mainly says that utility in combating anti-national and also secessionist and terrorist elements. So this act is important mainly to combat anti-national activities or secessionist activities and also some terrorist activities here. So this act mainly protects elected government mainly from attempts to overthrow government with violence and as well as illegal means. So in this way we can ensure stability of government. And next one is if there is contempt of court. So whenever there is anything, contempt of government should also be punished, right? So because of this we need this sedition law. And if you see some arguments against this sedition, it mainly says that it is relic of colonial legacy. It is constraint of legitimate exercise of constitutionality guaranteed freedom of speech and expression. So as we know, this law mainly brought by Britishers. So it is a colonial legacy. It is relic of colonial legacy here. So it is mainly showing some restrictions on freedom of speech and expression. And next one is dissent and criticism of government. They are essential ingredients of robust public debate in vibrant democracy. So whenever we are having this sedition type laws, they mainly restrict freedom of people. And next one is right to question and criticize and change rulers. It is a fundamental idea of our democracy. Whenever we are crushing this by sedition, so it is not good for democracy. And next one is Britishers, they introduced this sedition mainly to oppress Indians. So they themselves, they have abolished this sedition law. But why? What is need of this sedition law in independent India now? So these are some arguments which are against this sedition law. And if you see terms of this section 124A of Indian Constitution, so for example the word disaffection. So this affection, it is a vague word and it also subjected to different interpretations to whom, to whims and fancies of investigation officers. So in this way there may be misuse of this sedition law that will happen. And next one is we also have some rules and laws like IPC and Unlawful Prevention Activities Act of 2019 mainly to penalize disrupting public order. So there is no need of this sedition law now. So in 1979 India also ratified International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. So this mainly sets standards for protection of freedom of expression, and in this context we no need this sedition law. So this is gist of this article. And now let us see next article. Title says imparting direction to science in India. So this article mainly focusing on science policy of India. So as of now we have 5, okay, we have 4 and 1 is drafted recently and that draft released recently in January 2021. So this article, it is a good article and let us try to understand this article in great detail, and I will try my level best to explain this article in such a good manner that you can understand easily and you can remember. So if you see background, why this science policy in news? Because this National Science Day. So we are celebrating this National Science Day every year on 28th February 2021. So this year the theme of this Science Day here is Future of Science and Technology and Innovation, Impact on Education, Skills and Work. So this mainly focusing on science and technology and innovation here. So this science and technology innovation that comes under our 4th science policy of India. So if you see aim of this National Science Day, here mainly to bring awareness about importance of science and technology in our daily life, and also to encourage people by popularizing about the science and technology. And also we commemorate this discovery of Raman effect. So this Raman effect awarded Nobel Prize in 1930. So what is this Raman effect? Raman effect mainly talks about behavior of light. So whenever white light which is passing through prism, it will disperse and forms into Vibgyor, right? So this is called as Raman effect. And if you see recent report mainly published by National Science Foundation of US in December 2019, it mainly said that India was the third largest publisher of peer-reviewed science and engineering journal articles and as well as some conference papers here. So yearly growth rate it is of 10.73% from 2008. So because of this, India became third largest publisher. So who is first and second? First is China and second is USA. So China and USA, they had thrice and twice the number of Indian publications. So China stands position 1, USA second and India third. So the World Intellectual Property Organization, that is WIPO, also mainly through Patent Cooperation Treaty, that is PCT. So it is mainly for primary channel of filing international patent applications. So whenever we want to apply for this international patent applications, we need to approach this WIPO, especially this PCT, to get this international patent application. So this WIPO also came up with a report in 2019. So in this report, it mainly highlighted that India filed modest number of 2053 patent applications, and if you are comparing with other countries like USA and China, USA applied for 57,840 and China applied for 58,990 applications here. So if you are talking about China's applications in year 1919, it was just 276 patents, but now it increased many fold times here. So in this context, India has a long way to go forward. And next one is India have National Intellectual Property Rights IPR policy of 2016. So through this policy, it mainly stimulates a dynamic, vibrant and as well as a balanced intellectual property rights system in India. So important objective of this National Intellectual Property Rights policy here, it is to develop human capital. So mainly it focuses on human capital development. So if you're talking about science policies in India, till now after 1947 we got independence, we have 5 policies. So out of these 5 policies, we have 4 policies completed, and recently in January 2021, one draft which is released. So now let us try to understand each and every science policies. So first one is Science Policy 1, which came up in India in year 1958. So important objective or important aim of this policy here, it is to develop a scientific enterprise and also to lay foundation for scientific temper in India. So that led to mainly establishment of many research institutes and many national laboratories in India. And by 1980s, India had developed advanced scientific infrastructure and as well as with sufficient scientific personnel. For example, IITs were established. And second policy in year 1983. So this second policy mainly focused on self-reliance and to use technology mainly to benefit all sections of society. And also it focused on strengthening of research mainly in electronics and as well as biotechnology. And third policy came up in year 2003. So this is first policy after liberalization. So we got LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization in year 1991. So after 1991, we got this first science and technology policy in 2003. So important aim here, it is to increase investment mainly in research and development, and also focus on scientific and engineering research board also was established under this science and technology policy of 2003 that will help mainly to promote research in these different fields of science. And fourth one is Science Policy Induced Innovation, that is Science and Technology Innovation 2013. It mainly focused on top 5 global scientific leaders, and this can be achieved mainly through building partnership with the states, and also it led for establishment of more research and development centers, and also they are collaborating in international projects. So these are important things under this fourth science policy. If you are talking about fifth science policy, that is draft of this Science and Technology Innovation Policy of 2020. So it mainly this draft released in January 2021, and this policy mainly offered some hope to research in India, and it has some ambitious vision to double number of full-time equivalent researchers and to increase gross domestic expenditure in research and development, and mainly to increase private sector contribution in this gross domestic expenditure on research and development. So if you are comparing with other countries, private sector participation in this research and development, it is very low in India. So because of this, we need to encourage private sector mainly to invest in this research and development. And next one is, if you're talking about position of India among top 3 scientific powers in next decade. So important aim of this policy here, it is mainly to place India in top 3 scientific powers in next decade. So if you're talking about the science, technology and innovation policy of 2020, it mainly defines open science framework. So this will be very helpful to create one nation, one subscription. So what is this one nation, one subscription? So if you want to go through number of science journals or international journals and as well as national journals, mainly to access to these international journals and as well as national journals, we need to pay some subscription. So earlier we need to pay separate subscription for international things and also separate for some national things. So now we are going to have this one nation, one subscription. That means if you are having one subscription, then you can have access to international journals and also national wide journals. So this will give all individuals and institutes in India access to all top journals, such that it will have some advantages like it will improve access knowledge and as well as it will improve funding for participation in research. And if you're talking about India's spending in this research and development, it is just 0.6% of our GDP. When we are comparing with other countries like China and USA, they are funding more than 2% of their GDP. And if you're talking about Israel, it is funding 4% of GDP here. So in this way, we need to improve our funding here. So what might be reason for low funding? Here, reason for low funding here is because of low private sector participation in this. And in this context, what is way forward? So here we need to focus on some key areas. First one is we need to focus on inclusion of underrepresented groups of people in research, and as well as we need to support some indigenous knowledge system. We can use artificial intelligence in this science and technology, and we need to reach out Indian scientific diaspora. That will helpful for collaboration, science diplomacy with partner countries. And next one is we need to set up strategic technology development fund that will give some boost to research in India. So these are some steps which are mainly suggested in this article. And now let us see next article. Title says the Biden touch to sober yet substantive ties. So this article mainly talking about India-US relations. So this article, it is a very good article which is giving some insights regarding what are positives regarding India and US relations because of new administration in US, and also what are some negatives here. So now let us try to understand this article in great detail. So this article is very important regarding international relations, which comes under GS paper 2. So if you see, this article mainly saying about India-US relations. So if you're talking about background of this article, it mainly says that 1 year since former US President Trump spoke about India-US relationship. So in this context, relationship with Prime Minister Modi in glowing terms, mainly in terms of Sardar Patel Stadium in Ahmedabad. So what happened? Relationship between India and as well as US regarding former president of US, that is Donald Trump. So whenever this Donald Trump was in administration, relationship between India and US is very good here. Okay, but as changing of this US administration, then what happened? There is also many things that changed between these both countries. So author mainly satirically said that as in terms of Sardar Patel Stadium, name of this stadium changed here. So in same way, relationship between India and US also changed here. So US has changed its leadership and new administration that came into picture in US. And if you're talking about growth prospects of both US and India, that are changed because of COVID-19, and also highest number of coronavirus cases in world that is seen in India and US. US and India, they stand number 1 and number 2 in number of cases, and even name of this stadium also changed as Modi Stadium here. So if you're talking about new US president has spent much of his first month of his office mainly in changing Mr. Trump's policies here. So some of them include reversing US withdrawal from Paris climate deal. So here US mainly want to join this US Paris climate deal, and next one is US also came out of this WHO and reversed by this Biden administration, and US also came out of this United Nations Human Rights Commission. So now new administration joined this again, and also next one is cancelling Muslim ban and also other immigration policies. So these are some reversing of this Trump administration by new administration by Biden. So if you're talking about new administration, he are not at present planning to change the course of Mr. Trump chose of this building closer ties with India. So whenever Donald Trump administration was present, so Donald Trump mainly he was very much closely related to India, and he also came up with Quad and also Indo-Pacific policy. As of now, new administration did not take any steps regarding this Quad and also Indo-Pacific policy, which are taken by Donald Trump. And next one is virtual meeting between US Secretary and External Affairs Minister of India and also Foreign Ministers of Japan and Australia that held recently. And even Biden's climate change envoy appeared mainly to discuss on, and also he praised efforts of India regarding renewable energy targets and emission targets, and also he charted an ambitious course ahead between India and USA. And also there is decision which is taken by new administration mainly to lift restriction and also cap on number of visas and as well as green cards. And if you see everything, it is not positive. There is also another side of coin, that is negatives here. So negatives here, we need to understand first China's aggression. So we are seeing China's aggression in this line of actual control. So because of this Chinese aggression at line of actual control, that brought India and US very closer, and that led to galvanization or greater military cooperation between India and US. And also there is intelligence sharing between India and US at this LAC region. But if you see recently New Delhi, which gave up years of hesitation over handling of Malabar exercise and Quad because of these tensions at LAC region. So Biden mainly said that China as a competitor regarding different fields like defense, trade and technology. So in this context, Biden said that there is need of cooperation in certain areas like climate change here. So where interest of USA and China, they are converging. So there is a need of cooperation. And second one is regarding human rights. India and US have some odds regarding farmers' protest and also Citizenship Amendment Act, National Registry of Citizens, Jammu and Kashmir areas, etc. here. And also Indian government action mainly to shut down some international agencies like Amnesty International and Greenpeace and as well as Compassion International, etc. So in this way, we have some odds between India and China. And next one is India ties with Russia, mainly regarding this S-400 missile system. So we are going to have this S-400 Triumph missile system from Russia. So whenever we are getting this S-400 missile system from Russia, it may attract under this CAATSA Act here. So even Biden administration mainly seeks to implement strictly regarding this CAATSA Act regarding this S-400 Triumph missiles here. And next issue here is general system of preferences. So this general system of preferences, which is mainly signed between India and US, but US recently withdrawn this general system of preferences during this Trump period. So India is mainly still hoping for reversal of this US decision regarding this GSP. So these are some important points that you should remember regarding this article. And now let us see mains question. Question here is repeated misuse of sedition law underlines the need to scrap it altogether, critically analyze. So in this critically analyze, you have to write both positives and negatives. So these positives and negatives we discussed in this lecture very detailedly. So you have to write answer should not be more than 250 words. By this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to join this current affairs package course. Thank you so much.